Hey there, everybody. Robert Taylor with Wonderscape Creations, doing another video for the Biome Generator for our Wonderscape World Toolkit. So the last thing we will be going over in this week's set of episodes is the index version of all of this, so that you guys understand it. So the way they have everything set up is you can choose whether you use a mesh, an assembly, an actor, and if it has child assets. Now, an assembly is a pack level instance or level instance that has been turned into a PCG asset. And that is something that I've gone over in previous series that I will also go over once I've added more to the assembly portion of this graph. And mesh and actor are obvious. An actor is a blueprint, mesh is just a static mesh. Child asset is essentially the same thing of what we're going to be seeing in an index. There's just fewer drop down sections here. I think there's only like 2 or 3 versus the 6 or 7 that are here. So shared trees is something that all of the trees, well, in this case, all the trees, it's something that all assets that you determine should share these set of rules. So if I open it up, I have a generator graph. If I open up this generator graph, it can be an instance, but right now it's not. But if we look here in this in the parameters, we have spatial noise settings. So how they determine how the trees are planted. The spatial noise threshold, points per square meter, the points extent. So how big are the extents of everything that are these trees, looseness, and seed. So everything that has this, I'm going to close this, this shared trees asset, which is part of biome cores, will share that information. This will stay relatively the same. That way there can be universal information for those that, for things that should have universal information. But I am going to add a few things and streamline a few things over the coming month. Generator subtype, I have not messed with this. I'm assuming it looks for a generator with that name. I will be looking more into the purpose of this down the road, because they did not provide any examples that I saw in the biome core. Now, transform graph allows you to change the transform information of the various points how you want to on top of how they already do it. So I went ahead and created the usual stuff, offset min max, rotation min max, absolute rotation so the trees are always up, scale min, scale max, just so that I can verify that everything works. Because I do technically have that here in the asset options. Just if you mess with orients upwards, then the rotation stuff starts working in a very weird way. So I need to look into that, determine whether to get rid of this altogether, or make my transform thing the primary thing here in the asset options. Haven't decided yet. Excuse me. So mesh assembly actor, you already know what that is. Child assets, essentially just an asset that you choose to have. If I come down here, so it'll spawn things around your the actors that you so choose. As you can see, they're essentially the exact same thing as before. They just have different transform information, which is what he used his for, to set everything up in a very beautiful way. So don't expect that to change much, only improve. And then the debug options here, I haven't added my debug coloring options so that we can tell each type apart, because some of these trees look very similar, but you can isolate so that it only generates this actor within the biome, or show bounds so you can see where it deletes things that overextend into those bounds. We can ignore debug color. As I said, right here in the asset options is where right now you do a lot of the transform stuff. You also have self pruning so that you can delete even more things. So if there's too many things that are stacking on top of each other, so that it makes sure that that stuff doesn't happen. And then how far that multiplier works. Then mesh options, pretty straightforward, things that you can change. You can read more about that in the documentation. Assembly options, right now there's only allow collision. I'm going to be changing that so that we can diversify the assembly based off of tags and whatnot, and we'll make sure we go into that in the future. The filter options. This is very important to understand, extremely important to understand. These options only work based off of, close this, don't need it, the Wonderscape Biome Core example. So this right here, this asset right here, when you open it up, you have these root point filters and child point filters. Like I said, these can be the same or they can be different. But if you open them up, right now we have 3. Height didn't need a graph. If you want one, which we will have one to create a density filter for height, this just purges stuff that are too high or too low based off of height min and height max. So this one just works out of the box right now. Now the density filter needed to have this in order to do density, to reduce the density based off of, where is it? Not share trees. Right here, the density min and density max. So if we put this, if it doesn't have a graph and you change it from 0 to 1 and say you make the 1 a 0.999, everything's going to delete all of them. Unless you have a graph made for density, which we have one set up for the time being, which you can obviously change if you choose. Again, height works. So right now, flow min and sun, flow min and max and sun exposure min and max do not work at the moment. And that is simply because that requires you guys to have black and white textures, which I am still trying to figure out how I'm going to implement. Otherwise, it's just going to be something that's only there for those who have the ability to make those maps inside, like World Creator or World Engine or something. Water distance min and max. That is what is determining how far the water is. How far meshes can get to the water and how far away they can get from the water. That doesn't work unless you have, there we go, this one right here, water distance. It's very important to note that what you see here only determines how far the mesh can get to the water point. That does not determine where the water point is. You have to do that here in this filter. So if you open it up, I have an instance right now. And for this situation, the water level is at negative 41,500. So that is important that this gets set. Once you set it, sometimes it doesn't do its thing like it should. Not sure why. I'm sure it'll get fixed in the future. But until then, just hit clean PCG, generate PCG, and everything will adjust as it should. And then lastly, the slope min and slope max. Like I said in the first video I made, there's some stuff that's populating on slopes that shouldn't, and that's a graph that I plan on making for this very filter setup thing, so that everyone has an easier time with their setups. That's everything that we have for this iteration of the Biome Generator. Expect a whole bunch more to happen over the next month, and you will see updates every 2